He is Daudi Tonje. He is the one who was named after in the Tonje rules. We have to study the Tonje rules. Before we talk about Tonje rules, there is something which I believe is more important than the Tonje rules that Tonje did. Tonje, we had something called Women's Service Corps. This is a battalion that was commanded by a female lieutenant colonel. It was composed of female soldiers, and it was stationed at Isili. This Women's Service Corps was started by Mama Ngina Kenyatta, and it was ended by Daudi Tonje. There was a time when Mama Ngina Kenyatta accompanied Jomo Kenyatta to a passing out parade of the military at Lanet. And she wondered to the president that why is it that the military is composed of men only? That is when Jomo Kenyatta ordered that women start joining the military. They went to the National Youth Service, took there some ladies, and they started the Women's Service Corps. Hongera Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Now, whoever joined the military as a woman did not fail, although she was now a military officer like any other, getting all the respect pertaining to her rank. For example, if she was a senior to you, you are supposed to salute her, such and such a thing. But there were still some problems with the women in the military. One, they were only in the army. We did not have, there were only soldiers in the army. We did not have sailors who were women. We did not have air women in the Kenya Air Force. That is one problem. The other problem is they worked on contract. They were not supposed to be married. And if they wanted to have kids, once the pregnancy was 4 to 5 months, she used to sign terminating her contract. Imagine, especially my viewers who are women, and even men, because when your wife is 4 or 5 months pregnant, you know what goes through, even to you. This is the time when the woman needs a lot of medical attention. This is the time when a woman now needs a lot of money because she has to have special diet. She has to be whatever. But then with the military service corps, that is when you terminate your job. You become jobless. You attend. You continue with your pregnancy. You give birth. After giving birth, the kid is a certain age where the kid can now be taken, most of the time, by a maid. So you bring a maid to Isili to take care of your kid, and then you reapply afresh to continue the work. And you know, naturally, okay, let us say that even if we try, a woman will not be equal to a man, because even in other professions, where a woman goes on maternity leave, she's given 3 months and whatever. You see, those 4 months, is it 3? Those 3 months, she has what we call an institutional lapse. You know, if you continue working throughout, you pick up from where you are. But you see, going home, becoming a mother, and then coming back to start your job afresh, even in the best circumstances, nature has been against women. But in the military, women service corps then, she became a civilian at that time until the time when the kid is now ready to be taken care of by a maid throughout. So women, we have so many who completed service, or if she reached a place and she really wanted to get married, then she had to leave service. We have a woman. If you go to YouTube and show the, in the military, you can go back. When you're 45 years or so, you can go back to Askari wa Wazee. There is a lady who is on the YouTube, who was being recruited in Askari Wazee, and she was marching, and people are very happy in the stadium. So that is what happened. And Daudi Tonje changed that. From then henceforth, a woman would be married and continue serving just like the police, prison, or other professions. That one, he did it. And if my memory serves me well, he commanded it. He never consulted anybody. He commanded and said it will be that way. Recently, he's still alive. Recently, veterinary, not veterinary, okay, old soldiers went to see him, and they thanked him. They said, although we didn't go that, but our younger sisters and daughters have gone through a good thing. I think that thing, very few people know about it. Now, let us go back to Tonje rules. Tonje ordered, we had cases where somebody would stagnate in one rank for forever. He said that henceforth, if you join the military, let's say at 18, you have to reach the rank of captain by the time you're 37 years. If you reach 37 years and you're still a lieutenant, you have to leave service. Then he gave a certain age also for major, and then for lieutenant colonel, colonels, brigadiers, major general, lieutenant general, and even generals. This, he made it so that people do not stagnate. But most importantly, bosses at the command level used to stagnate. Because if you look at Lieutenant Colonel, he later became a colonel, Kimaru. Kimaru was a Mutaita, and he was the commander of the Navy. How many years did he stay as a Navy commander? I think 8. Look at Lieutenant Colonel Gishuru, later colonel, and even rose up to be a major general. How many years did he command the Air Force? Very many. Now we come to the army. When the British were leaving, the last commander was Brigadier Hadi. Brigadier Hadi had 2 ranks. He was the army commander. At the same time, he was the chief of the defense forces, of the armed forces. He was called a CDF and army commander. He handed over to Major General Ndolo. Major General Ndolo was both army commander and chief of the defense forces. But then Major General Ndolo was heavily implicated in the 1972 attempted military coup, 1972. So what happened? Ndolo had to retire, and his deputy, Major General Mulinge, Jackson Kimeu Mulinge, became the army commander. He took over when he was a major general. Later he became a lieutenant general, and later a full general. But when he took over in 1972, he was a major general. Now, let us take Mulinge, for example. He became the army commander in 1972 and retired in 1986. That is how many years? 14 years at the command level. Now, when Mulinge took over as army commander, Jomo Kenyatta decided that he will scrap the rank of Chief of Defense Forces. Why? You know, if you are the Chief of Defense Forces, the Navy reports to you. The Air Force reports to you. And the Army reports to you. And you report to the Commander-in-Chief. So he scrapped it. You see, there is, even now, you can say that the Commander-in-Chief and the Chief of Defense Forces do almost the same job. It is just that Chief of Defense Forces is an inspector and the Commander-in-Chief is a Chief Inspector. I hope that explains it. Now, Kenyatta scrapped the Chief of Defense Forces, so he became technically both because they do the same job, and Mulinge was Major General, Army Commander. At the same time, Lieutenant Colonel Kimaru at Taita, I said Taita because we also have names Kimaru in Kikuyu. Lieutenant Colonel Kimaru at Taita was the Navy Commander. Lieutenant Colonel Gishuru at Kikuyu was the Army Commander and was the Air Force Commander, and Mulinge was the Army Commander. Mulinge was the Army Commander. They continued that way until much later, and I've said much later, when Moi, when Mulinge convinced Moi that he creates the position of Chief of the Defense, he recreates it, but it was renamed as Chief of the General Service, CGS. So Mulinge became the CGS and handed over the work of the military to Mulinge became a Lieutenant General and the CGS. And Sawe was promoted, Brigadier Sawe was promoted and made a Major General, the Army Commander. As they continued that way, you can see the first CDF was a military man. The second military man, Brigadier Hadi. The second one was Major General Ndolo, both from the Army. Now the third one is Mulinge from the Army. Then it happened that Mulinge, even though he was the Chief of General Staff, and he wanted to retire, but those days, head of the military was a very sensitive person because he could overthrow you. So Moi knew that placing there any other person would be a problem. But then Mulinge was promoted to general, still as Chief of the General Staff, and Sawe was promoted to a Lieutenant General and given two ranks. Sawe was the Army Commander, and at the same time, Sawe was made a Lieutenant General and made a Deputy Chief of the General Staff. I have to correct myself. Mulinge was made a General and he was getting old. So, Moi made the Army Commander, who was Major General Sawe, when Mulinge was made a Lieutenant General and made Chief of General Staff, Brigadier Sawe was made Army Commander and Major General. So when he was made Army Commander and Major General, Mulinge requested Moi to have somebody who will understudy him because he was getting old. And Moi made Sawe a Lieutenant General and a Deputy Chief of General Staff. He promoted Brigadier Mohammed Mahamud to be a Major General and Army Commander. But when Sawe worked in the defense headquarters, he found that being the deputy CGS, he was a desk officer. A desk officer. I used to be a desk officer. So desk officer, you only have, not of my level, but at that level, You only have guards at your place. You have a driver, you have bodyguards, just that. You have no command. And anything you sign on behalf of the chief of the general staff. So Sawe went back to the president. And remember, Sawe was a Kalenjin. So he went back to the president and insisted that he retains back the rank of army commander. So he was returned, he was given a new title, Lieutenant General Sawe, Deputy Chief of General Staff and the Army Commander. Major General Mahamud, who was the Army Commander, was reverted to, his new title was Major General Mahamud, Deputy Army Commander. He was not happy, and there used to be tension between the two, between Muhammad and Sawe. But one thing that Moi had, they say, better the devil you know than the angel you don't. Moi had this policy of better the devil Kalenjin than angel non-Kalenjin. So he used to side with Sawe. The tension went to an extent. You see, at the time when the military was, when we had the 82 coup attempt, Mahamud had been told to retire. So when the military people were out in the field doing exercises, Mahamud was in Nairobi clearing so as to rejoin the civilian life. And then akaangukia. Actually, the people who returned Moi to the city were the GSU. But because of military hierarchy, it was said that the army is the one that returned. But the GSU did so under the command of Major General Mahamud. Because in many cases when police and army are having an operation, it's the army person who is in charge. After all, the head of GSU is a very junior person to a deputy army commander. So he did that, and Moi did not want to let Sawe go. He left Sawe to be the army commander, but made Mahamud, instead of now Mahamud going home and retire, he went to the Air Force and was promoted to the rank of Lieutenant General and Air Force Commander. Now I want you to listen here carefully. He was made an Air Force Commander. Much later, Tonje made in his rules that there is no way, if you are not a pilot, to head the Air Force. He noticed that from Mahamud, and when his turn came, he said that from now henceforth, for you to command the Air Force, you have to be a pilot. So here is an infantryman commanding Kenya Air Force, or it was renamed 82 Air Force. It was renamed 82 Air Force. He was commanding. But then, the difference between him and Sawe persisted. You'll find, even in the police during my time, we used to have problems. There's a time we even wanted to fight in Eldoret, because in the special branch office, we had 3 types of inspectors. We had the direct entry inspectors. We had, like me, we had what we call special SOIP, and then we had SOIP. Special SOIP were for Form 6. It's like today people being promoted. There is a promotion, there is a direct entry graduates, and then we have promotion for those with the diplomas. So I can say Form 6, I can call it a diploma level, for lack of a better word. Now, even in the military, you find that there is a difference between those who join the officers' rank as cadet officers and NCOs who are promoted. And you see a person like Mahamud started off as a recruit. So the attention started, and Mulinge sided with Mahamud. Plus, remember, Mahamud had commanded the soldiers who returned Moi to. So Sawe was retired, and Mahamud was made Chief of the Defense Forces. Throughout the time Mahamud was the Chief of Defense Forces, he used to put on the Air Force uniform. But basically, he was an infantry. Yes, in the Air Force, Mahmoud himself wanted to make me an airman, but he told me that since I was not a trained pilot, I would go there as an admin officer. We have a lady, I think she's Fatuma, a major general for the Air Force. She's not a pilot, if I can remember. So in the Air Force, we have people who are not pilots, but they're officers. These ones, Tonje ruled that in future you will never head Air Force if you're not an airman. And you may join the Air Force, rise up to those like Madam Fatuma, if I've remembered her name. You rise up to that rank, but she can never become the chief of defense forces because she's not a pilot. She's not a pilot. I think we are clear there. So from then Mahmoud became a general, chief of defense forces, an infantryman who impersonated, let me say he impersonated an airman. So you can see from there, still military people are heading. From Mahmoud, that is when Tonje became the one. So basically, all the heads of the military were from the army. This Tonje felt demoralized both the Navy and the Air Force. Or could I say, both the sailors and the air people. So he said that the issue be rotation. It is just like joining any disciplined forces, let me say police, and you join so many tribes. You join so many tribes. So you would want also all those tribes, is it now 50? They keep on growing. Any of the 50 tribes, anybody can rise up to the rank of Inspector General. Now, previously is that if you joined the Navy or you joined the Air Force, you forget about being, the highest you could go was the Air Force commander or the Navy commander. So he said that, and he ordered. There was also this problem, corruption in employment. It is already 23 minutes, but you see, talking about Tonje, you need 10 recordings such as this. There was a lot of corruption in recruitment. He stopped that. There was also, you see, Mahmoud was old, and Mahmoud was. There are these things that you do. There are these things that I've seen it across. It is not just the military or anything. A lot of good things are done by powerful people who are placed there by the president, and they come from the president's background. You find that a person from another tribe becomes fearful of what the president. But you see, if you come from the same place as the president, and you do something, you don't. The level of fearing is reduced so far. I think starting from tomorrow, maybe things will change. But in our history is that if you are somebody who comes from the president's tribe or locality, you can make drastic issues. We used to find that even people who used to supply things to the military used to supply papers. I remember one time I'd visited a retired soldier, and then a serving soldier came and visited him, and they started exchanging notes. Then the serving officer said, "Do you know that even at the mess nowadays, after a meal, we don't have fruits?" Said, "What? Yeah, even pasta and macaroni is no longer there." What used to happen is that some people used to work with the military. They were supposed to supply. Now imagine, I'm not talking of the whole military. Imagine Langata Barracks. You are supposed to supply them fruits. Let's say Monday they are supposed to, okay, fruits from my food program, which I initiated, which Sakaja now calls Dishipoa, is that when it comes to fruits, you don't say which fruit is to be given. It is said fruit of the season, because you'll reach a season when there is so many maembe, or another time there is so many oranges. But let us say that every lunchtime, Langata has 1,000 soldiers. So during their lunch, you're supposed to supply every day 1,000 fruits, 30,000 fruits in a year, in one battalion, in a month, 30,000, and you don't supply. Now, how much is an orange? An orange is 20 shillings. 20 times 30, that is 600. You have conned one battalion 500,000 shillings. Tonje stopped that. And when you talk about Tonje, you'll talk Tonje, Tonje, Tonje. Let us celebrate our people, our heroes, when they are alive.